Hello and welcome to the 1010 podcast with Andrea McKee. On this podcast, we zoom in really micro and we zoom out really macro because the goal here is to say, am I on the right path for my life and how I want my life to go? And if I am, then let's keep going, let's keep doing it. And if I'm not, then let's be brave enough to pivot. Because as far as we know, we have one life to live. And that is now. So there is no better time than now to choose what is next. The reason I am calling this podcast 1010 is because I am a mirror of you and you are a mirror of me. And every single person can learn something from another person. And when we are open to reflecting on our lives, man, that's when the good stuff happens. P.S. 1010 is my birthday, so it is my favorite number. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the 1010 podcast. All right, today I'm very excited because I am going to do part 2 of the last episode. In the last episode, I talked about how important it is to accept that you are on the right path. And when I say on the right path, I don't mean that there isn't ever a need for a pivot or that there's never a need to do anything different, but you are exactly in the right place at the right time, doing exactly what you need to be doing right now. And it's when we can open up to that abundance that is in our current reality that we can then expand and say, okay, what's next? Because my desires are XYZ and I am growing into this. So this episode is called Metamorphosis because in so many ways I have imagined my life as a butterfly's stages. And I definitely went through a period of my life recently where I imagined myself in a chrysalis. I was going through a pretty dark time and I imagined myself in a chrysalis during that time because it was in that time that I was doing a lot of deep learning about myself, a lot of growth, a lot of reflecting. And it was in that reflection that I was able to come to really understand who I am and what I want and how to kind of get to where I want to go. I have come along a windy road, as I mentioned in the last episode. I consider my life a bit of a windy road, like definitely not a straight path, but always feeling like everything that I do actually is an upgrade to the last thing that I did. So in my mind, my life is always getting better and it is always blossoming further as a flower would. So I imagine myself as a flower and as a butterfly and as all these different things. And I will kind of relate to myself in that way during this episode and during certain periods of my life. But I believe that we go through a sense of metamorphosis in our life. And, one of the things that I wanted to share with you was the definition from the Oxford Dictionary that describes metamorphosis as an insect or amphibian. We are neither, but the process of transformation from an immature form to an adult form in 2 or more distinct stages. And we often look at humans in stages of infant, toddler, preschooler, school-age child, adolescent or preteen, teen, adult, middle-aged, geriatric. Like we have these different stages that we sort of name. And I think that kind of like boxing us in can sort of lead to us not learning as much from each other as we otherwise would. But in this case, I don't think of myself necessarily in terms of that because I've always kind of seen myself as a bit of a wise soul. And when I say that, I don't mean in an egotistical way, like I'm wiser than you. But when I look at life, I see it from kind of an angle that feels older than me. Even when I was in middle school or high school, I really didn't feel like I was coming at life from a teenager perspective. I kind of felt like I was coming at life from like a what would future me want from me now. And even still, I often think, what does future me want from me now? And what kind of choices would 80-year-old me be like hoping that I'll be making now, even like health wise and, family wise and relationship wise, friend wise, career wise, all of those things. I often imagine what my 80-year-old self will be glad that I did. So in my last episode, I specifically referred to having lost my faith during my final pregnancy. And that was, that had been kind of a bit of the religion for me had been a bit of a spiral for a while. And I'm not going to go into like the depths of it on this episode, but I will break it down in the future, just not necessarily today. But I'll give you a little bit of an idea because I did see myself going through metamorphosis. So I had young children. My oldest was 4, my second was 2, and then of course I had my babies. And after my faith stopped making sense to me, like I said, I'll go into that at some point. I really started to, like, my life was harder. When your worldview crumbles to the ground and you no longer sort of have a context with which to think about death, which to think about birth, with which to think about life purpose, or like, who's got your back? Is it God? Is it universe? And it's not like a panic. It's just like an acceptance that you're in this new stage of life. At least for me, it was this acceptance that I'm in a new stage where my former belief system didn't make sense to me anymore. And so now I'm in a discovery place. And if you think about a child doesn't come with religious beliefs. A child comes with a blank slate, and whatever the parent or family culture is what the child takes on. So when I would, take my sweet dear little boys on little walks around the lake that we lived by, we would just discover as we went. We would look and see. We would look at the goose poop that was on the ground, and we would name it, that's goose poop. And we would walk and we would see a pelican and we'd point at it, and that's a pelican. And we would look and see the neighbors or the neighbor's dog. And we would have such a joyful time walking around this lake, just discovering everything with my little people. And my son, when he was 2, my oldest son, when he was 2, we would go around the lake multiple times a day. So before he could walk, I would take him around in a stroller, and we would walk around the lake a few times. And then later in the day, we'd walk around the lake a few times. And we did that when he got older. Then he was walking himself, and we would walk around once because it would take so long because he was discovering everything. And he was in awe to see everything. He wanted to see all the dirt and the little piece of rock, and he wanted to look at the grass, and he would point at the tree, and he would see an airplane, and he was discovering the world with me, and I was there to help him name things. Well, now I'm in this, if you will, like toddler stage of belief system where my former belief system literally crumbled in front of my eyes. And now I'm in what feels like a toddler state, trying to navigate this by myself, because I had a brother who I could help, who I could talk through things with, which has been a lifesaver. We still to this day talk so often, at least once a week for, at least an hour. It's so fun. But I really, at the time, like, he was my only, like, my main kind of like deconstructing person, because he understood where I was coming from. It was hard to find people that really understood where I was coming from. Most of my friends were still in the church, or at least the friends who were still in the church. One of them would sort of listen, and she would be open-minded, but the rest of my friends, most, I didn't want to bother with all this stuff, because, it is, for people who are still in the church, it can be a bit emotionally taxing to listen to somebody who has left the church, because, it can also feel a little bit threatening Like, are they trying to take me away from the church? Are they trying to change my belief system? Or are they just venting? Or are they just talking out loud? So I think it can be a little bit tricky as a person who leaves the church, if you don't have a support system, to kind of deconstruct and figure out, what is the new context? What is my new worldview, and how do I construct one? So this might sound crazy, but quite literally in the last 5 years, I feel like I've gone through like toddlerhood and teenager years and all these different things to sort of come almost transform myself into my new context, my new belief system, my new way of being and seeing the world. And it was pretty hard. I mean, I had lost a baby also, which added to it. And I was now a mom of 3, which, I was trying to sort of get my health managed, and I was trying to mother 3 children, which was in and of itself very difficult with the different needs and age groups of that. And then there were other factors as well that added to it. I mean, it wasn't a straight line of now I'm figuring out life and it's just so easy. Like, there was definitely a lot of struggle. And the book that I would read to my children, because they would frequently request it, is, you probably heard of the Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. And when I would read that book to them, I imagined myself as the egg, and then as the caterpillar, and then as the butterfly, going into the chrysalis, and then as the butterfly. And when I would imagine myself going from egg to caterpillar, I would imagine like opening up like a toddler, like, oh my goodness, look at all these leaves. Like, I get to just munch on them and eat them. And look at all this new landscape to explore. It was very exciting and very, awestruck. I'm sure as a caterpillar, it's this like, wow, I went from an egg where I'm just sitting on this leaf to now look at me. I can crawl around. I have all these legs. I am big and I can eat whatever I want. But then intuitively, that caterpillar knows when it's time to build itself a chrysalis. And it doesn't know why it's building it. Like, I don't know that it imagines itself as a beautiful butterfly with wings, but it knows it's supposed to build a chrysalis. It knows it's supposed to do this one thing, and nobody has to tell it to do it. It just knows it's supposed to. So it does. And now I might get a little emotional. It builds this chrysalis for itself, and it stays there, not for 1 day or 2 days, but in the darkness for 2 weeks. What on earth do you do inside a tiny little chrysalis for 2 weeks? Are you just sitting there like sleeping? Like you ate a lot, so you're good to go. You don't have to go and eat some more. But intuitively, it knows it's supposed to stay there for 2 weeks, and that it knows when it's time to come out. And I want to emphasize the word intuitively, because every single one of us has an intuition that we have constant access to for direction in our lives. So when we want to know what direction we go, we need to tap into our desires. And some people might say, yeah, but what if my desires aren't actually good for me? Like, what if I just want to eat chips all day long? I'm not talking about instant gratification here. I'm talking about, what are your big picture desires for your life? Like, what do you imagine for yourself? Because I'm pretty sure you don't imagine yourself sitting on a chair when you're 70 years old eating a bag of chips. Like, I don't think that's your real life desire. And I know that's a bit of a shallow desire, but it's just to give an example of the difference between desire and instant gratification, because there is a difference when we can see the difference and we can tap into our true desires. Like, what does my authentic self want for me? What do I find the most joy and peace and relaxation in? What nudges have been leading me along, but I'm too scared to do them? Or what things have been tapping me on the shoulder, but I'm not willing to get vulnerable enough to actually do it? This is the intuition that you have access to, that you are denying because you're scared. I've been there. We've all been there. We all hide from ourselves. It's so much easier to live in the shadows. But guess what? That caterpillar didn't stay in that chrysalis, because if that caterpillar had stayed in the chrysalis forever, which is this dark space where they have a chance to really grow and develop and focus on rest and relaxation, which is, by the way, your desires are what give your soul the greatest rest and relaxation. Like whether that is painting, songwriting, exploring in the mountains, whatever it is, your soul is asking you to do more of that thing. That is your intuition guiding you in your life for the most fulfilling life possible for you. Do you know, when I was in college and I was trying to decide what I was going to study, there were two things that were important to me. One was making money, because I knew I did not want to rely on a man for me to be able to make money, simply because I knew that I needed to be able to support myself. So that played a factor. And then the other thing was, I, in the end, decided to be an elementary teacher, in part because I liked doing so many things. I liked math, I liked science, I liked art, I liked singing, I liked all these different things. And I loved children. I had nieces and nephews that I absolutely adored and loved being with. And I thought, you know what? I love children. So I ended up doing that. And there is more to that story as well. So someday I might piggyback on this and do a different episode. But I couldn't see myself being a teacher forever. I was a teacher for a little while. I did that. And then I knew intuitively it was time to do the next thing. And that was get a master's degree. And it was with XYZ as my requirements. I needed a return on my investment. I needed to make sure I was going to have more impact and a wider reach. And then after that, I just feel like, even though my life has shifted and I've done so many different things, I used to be embarrassed by it, but now I'm like, wow, I'm proud of myself for following the intuitive nudges to go and do the next thing, because every single thing was an upgrade to the last thing. And whenever it doesn't start to feel like an upgrade, I'm like, okay, where is my ego getting in the way here? Where am I feeling like I need to do something else? Now, the one difference was, and maybe and I'm not saying like everything in your life has to be a like quite literal upgrade to the last thing or whatever. I do believe that we have experiences in our life that are meant to teach us certain lessons. So if you feel drawn towards something, it might be the bridge between now and like the final desire you have in your life. And I think sometimes we're ready for a bridge experience. That's how like Lacey Phillips describes it in To Be Magnetic. This idea of, we take the thing that we are ready for now that will still give us the lessons we need, which was for me, nannying. Between my master's degree and my assistant principal job, nannying was exactly what I needed that I didn't know I needed. But egotistically, I was like mortified that I was in a way doing that, but my soul was deeply nourished by that experience. And so sometimes we can get caught up in what we think other people think of us, or what we think that we should be doing based on where we're at in life. But it all comes back to that caterpillar, man. That caterpillar knew when it was time for the next stage. And what happened next? After 2 weeks of loneliness inside of that cocoon, that chrysalis, that caterpillar emerged a butterfly, more beautiful than it could have ever imagined. And now its perspective was 100% different than it was when it was a caterpillar walking on the leaves. Now that butterfly could fly around and see so many different perspectives, colors, flowers. It could go hundreds of miles even to migrate. But if it wouldn't have taken the time to build its wings and just rested and relaxed in the joy of what it was intuitively supposed to do next. And maybe it wasn't joyful. Maybe it was just so freaking hard. Okay, I ended up writing a song about this because honestly, I imagined myself after that time when I had my baby and lost my faith and was now a new mom of 3, and I had so many things I was trying to do. That was my time in my chrysalis. And I imagined that time as being dark and lonely and hard. And that book, that Eric Carle book was just nectar to my soul. It was everything I needed to remind myself that I'm exactly where I need to be right now, and that the struggle is actually part of the journey, and that the transformation comes from the struggle. It comes from the silence, the darkness, the hard, the waiting. And so I wrote a song about it. and I'm going to share it with you. And I see myself also as this flower who started as a seed, and then that seed grew into a stem, and then it grew leaves, and then it grew a bud. And then with the right nourishment and cultivation and support and sunshine and watering, it got exactly what it needed to bloom into a beautiful flower. And all of these transformations to me are exactly a metaphor for what our life is. It's exactly you and me. So the next time you are wondering if you are in the right place at the right time, I just want to remind you that you are. And to sink into what is your desire, what is the thing that you are, what are your nudges, the things that you're feeling inclined to do? Because when we listen to those nudges lead us on the right path. And it doesn't mean every single nudge is going to turn into something big, but it means that when you trust those nudges and you move toward them and you just try them and you're willing to not do everything perfectly, but to just try it anyway, that you will be rewarded with knowing what to do next. And that it is the consistency of the 2 weeks in the chrysalis that made the wings of the butterfly. We don't just magically get wings. Like, it had to be patient and be consistent and do the thing. And in order for us to get what we want, we do need to practice discipline and consistency. But it shouldn't be like this terrible thing that we have to do. I think that when we are tapping into our authentic self and our essence of the things that we loved as a child, of what we were into as a child, and how what resonated with us and what kind of spoke to us and what we imagined ourselves to be, we are just seeds. We are already the flower. The flower does not need to be told it is a rose. The rose was a rose when it was a seed. It just didn't know it yet. It just needed the nurturing in order to become the rose. So you're already who you're meant to be. You have everything inside of you to be exactly who you're meant to be. And I believe that we each as human beings are like this big puzzle where we all each have these unique and special gifts and talents and interests that sort of connect each other to, to our greater purpose as a whole. That energetically as human beings, our unique gifts fit together with other people's to make a very working, cohesive, harmonizing experience for humanity when we actually tap into our authentic selves. And when we do the next thing that we feel inclined to do. I'm metamorphic, changing, but my essence is the same. Metamorphic, changing, but my essence is the same. Metamorphic, daisy from a seed, monarch gets its majestic wings. Every phase was meant to be, but it couldn't see. Will it see? It was scared and dark and lonely, and it didn't know what was next. Had to make its way out of its shell. The safe space it built around itself. The safe space it built around itself. Cocooned the room so cozy and warm. It's not easy when you know that there is more. You know that there is more. So you go, now you grow. Now you grow. And emerge with the most beautiful wings, more colorful than you could ever have dreamed. Flying, seeing a whole new freedom, and it happened in the dark. Yeah, it happened in the dark. be afraid of the dark, there's more. It's where you transform, where you transform, where you transform. The caterpillar couldn't see when it was wrapped up in a cocoon. It was dark and things were different and new, just going with intuition, trying to understand with questions, stuck on what to do next. Why does everything feel so complex? That's not a productive question. Come on, simplify, remember, intuition. The chrysalis was dark, so very dark. The setting didn't change, still at the park on a leaf before, but now in the dark, the phase has changed, but you're still who you are, morphing without seeing. What is change without meaning? It had to find its way out, but in the right timing, it felt lost. Who am I? I miss those sunny days walking on leaves. I miss how life used to be. And then, when it was time, it emerged, not as it was, it emerged, not as it could have imagined for itself. That caterpillar emerged, more big and beautiful than ever before. It emerged from the darkness with wings to see the same world from a completely different angle. Without permission, just unfolding itself, rolling with intuition. And the most magical thing happened. That butterfly landed on a daisy, tall, sleek, colorful, and sturdy. That daisy used to wonder if it would always be small, a tiny seed, no idea who it was meant to be, all alone, sometimes freezing, stuck in this dark place. What is this condition? What is this place? Dark, damp, cold, lonely. Wait a minute. What's happening? I'm underwater. I'm drowning. Someone help me. Drowning every day. I can't breathe and it hurts. Feels like forever. When will it stop? What is that? I see something bright and warm. What is that? I'm taller than I was. In that dark place, I get it now. All that loneliness, coldness, and darkness, I get it now. The rain was making me soft to break out of my shell. Dark soil held me and gave me nutrition so I could come to fruition. Didn't know I was being planted. I thought I was being buried. But it's where I grew roots and perspective. I couldn't see the sun, I couldn't feel it, but it was always shining on me. Mother Earth holding and nourishing me, giving me everything I needed. And you know, that daisy grew up and brings light and joy and happiness and smiles to all who see it, just by existing. And you wouldn't believe the color, how beautiful that daisy is. It was always a daisy, even as a tiny little seed. The butterfly and daisy needed each other, working together for a bigger purpose. And how did it happen? Just going with intuition and doing next what felt right, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it was hard. They each had a short life, grew into who they were meant to be through the smallness and the darkness and the wondering, the painful change. And now I see myself more clearly, growing, changing, transforming. It's me. It's me. That butterfly and daisy are me. Change without meaning feels terrifying, but meaning shows up after, not before. You don't morph by denying intuition. You morph because staying the same would cost you more. I look the same, but I'm different, deeper, more connected than I was, more grown into myself, into who I was always meant to be. I look at the world now from a completely different angle. And emerged with the most beautiful wings, more colorful than you could ever have dreamed, flying, seeing a whole new freedom, and it happened in the dark. Yeah, it happened in the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark, there's more. It's where you transform. Metamorphic, changing, but my essence is the same. Metamorphic, daisy from a seed, monarch gets its majestic wings. Every phase was who is meant to be, but it couldn't see. It happened in the dark. It's where it got its wings. It's where it got its wings. The most beautiful thing. Now I see me. Metamorphic. Okay, I just really can't even sing that song without crying, because it was as I was going through such a hard time in my life. Like I said, after I had lost my baby, lost my faith, even moved to a new state, was trying to make friends, and was now a mom of 3. Like, there were so many things, and my husband had a lot of work trips. There were so many things that just were really, really hard during that time of life. And it's such a healing song for me. So if that song resonated with you, or that this episode or any of the episodes you've heard, please share them. That is how I will grow this podcast. And my hope is to just always share hope with people. Tomorrow is bright, and you are in exactly the right place at the right time, and you'll know exactly what you need to do next. Trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Have an amazing day. My name is Andrea McKee. My music you can find anywhere you stream music under Andrea Bailita. Bailita is my middle name. This is the 1010 podcast. Make sure you follow for more episodes every week on Wednesday at 10:10 Eastern Time.